Hello everybody, welcome to today's Friday Live. More poppies today. So last week we did this very high chroma single poppy. So the subject for this week is the chromatic opposite, if you like. It's really, really low chroma. There is actually quite a lot of different colours in there, all around the yellows and greens. You know, I'm just talking about the petals of the flowers, the interesting bit, the most interesting bit. So the challenge for today is to be able to show the form of those flowers. And don't underestimate it. It's quite a tricky challenge because the values are so very close. You know, you might have like less than a step in value between the light and the shadow. So it means some pretty careful paint handling to make it work. I'll show you what I mean. Let's bring up ChromaMagic and we can have a quick look at what it tells us about the colours in the poppies. So look at this, I'm going to zoom in. The incredible ChromaMagic app. If no one has seen this before, let's get the grid off so we can... If anyone is watching who hasn't seen this before, firstly, where have you been? Secondly, this is a really, really useful, I think a really useful learning tool because it allows you to find out, I mean, granted this is a reference photo, of course, but it allows you to find out exactly what those colors are and really importantly, where they sit in the value range. Okay, so this is, the value is pretty much the value range of paint we have available in paint. I'm going to show you in a moment when I actually start painting how we can translate what we see here. Like here, you see that's a value 5, right? That background color there, value 5. How we translate that from this app to the painting, okay? So let's have a look at what value range we've got. Like this is pretty much the darkest, I would say that's probably the darkest color in the shadow of the petal. You know, it's like a value 6, so it's already higher than halfway, and then the light ones are right up into value 9. Now if you click around, you tend to find lots of different kind of hues. A lot of that is down to, I think anyway, is down to just the way cameras work. This is obviously a little bit lighter, but you'll see that all kind of versions of yellows and greens and, you know, maybe a little bit orange here, but mostly yellows and greens, right? So darkest one is 6. The lightest one is a value 9. Around here, we're like a value 6, you know. But what's interesting, what's going to be more difficult is to show the cup shape of this one because the shadow side here, let me make that smaller sample. It's look at that, it's already like really, really light. It's a value 8 already. Very slightly tinged with yellow green. And then the light side is like, you've got one value step. Another thing to bear in mind here is the chroma. So in the lights, notice, so this is the chroma, like how intense the color is, this axis, if you like, across the top here, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm not going to go into why those numbers are that way. It's Munsell based, you know, but that's not really important. What is important is watch the chroma go up when we go into the shadow. All the way from 1, which is almost grey, up to a 4. Chroma is the intensity of the color. Even here, you know, in the lights, we're mostly about a chroma 1, and in the shadow, we're a chroma 2. So, 4 even there. So as you go from the light to the shadow, the value goes down, but not very much, and the chroma goes up. That's some pretty subtle mixing that it's going to take to make that work, okay? So, what's going to help us get there is the value scale. So you can see here a value 8 and a value 9. Look how close they are. You can see them on the painting surface now. Let me just move this light over so it's lighting the easel properly. The lightest parts were a 9 and the shadow was 8 on the poppy on the right. That's really close. And even on the one on the left, the shadow is a 6 and the light is a 9. So now we know the values that we want to use. Okay, let me show you what I've got on the palette. Lead white. I've got 2 dollops of lead white just because, you know, the chances are I'm going to get some paint in one of them. I'm going to run out. I'm going to need to put some more out. Probably will anyway. Cad yellow. You could use, there isn't really any warm yellow, I don't think, really. So you could use a green yellow like cadmium lemon. But I've just got straight cad yellow. Transparent red oxide and green gold. They are for the shadows, and also the green gold is going to be really useful to bring a little bit of chroma into our shadows, and the TRO as well, actually. The chroma droppers, raw umber and ivory black. And I've also got a little bit of phthalo green just for the bottle, because the bottle is a little bit, it goes a little bit towards blue green, okay? Step 1, oil out the panel. So this is linseed oil with a little bit of solvent, makeup sponge. This is an Ampersand Gessobord panel and it is 10 by 8 inches. I always default to this size these days for live streams when I do these paintings. Just a kind of a nice size to work. You can cover it quick enough that it doesn't take all day, but it's big enough to be able to kind of work a little bit of them. Hopefully, if we can do it today, work a little bit of the magic in. Oh, let's be switching back so you can actually see what I'm doing, right? The amount of times I've done that on live streams. So I put the oil on and then I wipe it right back so we've got a nice thin layer, okay? We don't want too much on there. And I think, you know, I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna start this one the same as I did last week. Or I'm gonna basically paint all of the background. This is Catalyst Princeton 01 mini silicon spatula, for want of a better word. Good for icing cakes and painting backgrounds. And then I'm going to wipe out where the flowers go, and then I'm going to paint in the flowers, and then we're going to see where we get. So this one from last week was done in exactly this way. And the reason it's sitting here on the easel is I'm kind of looking at it out of the corner of my eye, and I'm thinking about that painting might have some potential for a second layer. We shall see. Welcome, everybody. So good to see you all. Lots of people here watching today. Robin, yeah, Robin says, I'm hoping that Paul will do a live workshop one day. Maybe, as I say, I wouldn't rule it out. But at the moment, I have a new project which I'm about to embark upon. Well, it's not, I suppose I'm not really embarking on it because I've been doing it for a little while on the sly and not really saying much about it. But I'm doing more landscape painting at the moment. The reason I'm not sharing it online and the reason I'm not doing them in live streams is because they're fragile at the moment, by which I mean I'm finding my way. And I just want to be a little bit more comfortable with being able to teach it effectively. But I really do want to, you know, I'm thinking it would be really nice to be running some landscape workshops, and because I've been doing quite a lot more landscape painting. And today is a very exciting day for me because the next chapter of that plan is about to start. I have taken delivery of the painting bike, which is a new motorbike that I just got, which is a good bike for loading up with loads of kit. I know it would be more pragmatic. It would be more practical to use a car. I know. but I like riding motorbikes, so I got a motorbike to do it with. Just going to start getting some colours down in the background. So this is like raw umber, lead white, a little bit of green gold, and a little bit of transparent red oxide to give it like a little bit of chroma. I want about a value 4-ish. That's a bit light at the moment. So I'm going to start building the main value blocks. So that's the kind of the table on the light, I would say the light side. We start trying to think about where things are going to go. It comes about a third of the way up. Painting really probably took to about here. I just like to get the white covered, you know. By the time we're over here, it's quite a lot lighter. Get some white in that. It's probably like about a value 6, about the same value as the over this side, as the shadow of the petals. That's probably a bit lighter, more like a 7-ish. 7-ish probably. Let's get some of that on there. A little bit of colour interest into it. Not too bothered about it being like accurate colour as long as it's interesting. Tabletop. So over here you can see some of the background it's a bit lighter, value 5-ish, and it's also quite a bit cooler. You could say it's lower chroma, like warm and cool. A lot of people, you know, I tend not to talk about warm and cool an awful lot, but people tend to assume that it's just about hue, but it's actually, most times, it's a combination of hue and chroma. So that's very low chroma. It is going a little bit more towards neutral. So I'm mostly mixing black and lead white with a little bit of raw umber to get something that's close to neutral. I want to like about a value 5-ish, something like that. That'll do. I'm going to pick up a load of this paint on my knife. I'm going to say it's going to come in about here. And I like to, increasingly these days, you know, I don't often work carefully these days. I tend to just start throwing things in, and I want to make it. Actually, I'm going to put some quinacridone rose in that. There's just a hint in the background of some red. I like to get some life into the painting right at the start. It's easier to get it in right at the beginning than have to try and add it later. I think it would be nice, just a little. That's going to be too much, but let's put it in anyway and see what happens. By the time we get up to the top, we're getting a bit more into shadow. So far, no brushes have harmed the surface of this painting. It is palette knife and spatula. And then over here we've got a lot of shadow, so I'm going to get a big fat brush. This one. Ta-da! This is a Rosemary & Co. Ivory long flat. Now in the shadows there it gets quite dark. I don't think I'm going to go quite as dark as the photo is, but not far off. I'm going to start off with raw umber. I'm going to add some green gold, a little bit of transparent red oxide. This is just to give it a bit of chroma. I'm going to add some white. Now the photo, the value of the shadow there, if we went straight with the photo, which you might want to do, that's like a value 2. Anyone who's got ChromaMagic, you can check that for me, but I'm guessing that's about a value 2. I'm going to make mine a little bit lighter than that, not too much, just a bit. Why? Honestly, oh, I don't want to use that. I'm feeling it as slightly lighter. I may want to change it, you know, and I can always put a darker glaze on it later if I want to. I like to get a fresh brush, get a little bit of oil on it, a little bit of the medium, and then wipe it off. Let's see if this works. Yeah, no, I do want to go darker. Coming into the light. Let's just make a nice, you know, get some life into the painting at the start. I can't get dark enough now. This is not dark enough. There, I want to be darker. I am going to go darker. I changed my mind. As soon as it went down, I thought, nah, I don't like it. I want it to be darker. So I'm going like... down to... probably about a 3, maybe a 2 or a 3 there. Something like... So I want to get roughly the right values and chromas and colors and everything, but I want to do it without it looking boring. You know, I want there to be some squinting down and looking at where everything is going. I want there to be some life in it, like right from the start, and then I can start to pull it back, perhaps a little bit more to where it needs to be. I'm gonna put the glass bottle in probably towards the end. We'll just get it started for now. Soften this edge because it's a cast shadow. And you can't paint, like I won't be able to get the lightest values by just painting straight over that. So I'll need to wipe out where the flowers are going to go. Trying to make some texture and a bit of interest, because if you look at that, actually, if you look at the background, there's loads of texture, and you know there's a lot going on back there. It's almost a little close value abstract painting by itself, you know, but with these really subtle colors. This has maybe gone a little bit too high there. Let's take some of that out. Start this lower down. This is lighter than it needs to be, but I can always play with it later. So now we've got something established, you know, we're getting somewhere. And it's only paint and it can all be changed, you know, you just want to get a feeling of something happening there. And I realized that, you know, a lot of people would prefer for things to be more carefully painted, which is fine, you know, if that's what you like. You know what? I'm going to put the cast shadow of the bottle in straight away, so I can see kind of where it's going to go. It's quite subtle though, until you get actually to the bottle. And that's where the bottom of the bottle is going to be. Yeah. There's actually a subtle kind of a greenish light in here. I'm going to mix in, I don't want it to actually go green. I guess I could push it a little bit more. So black and phthalo mix with the colour that I used back there. Just for a kind of a suggestion of that. It's coming off through the glass. I don't really want, I just want to push it a little bit more in that direction though. I don't really want it to be green. So I mixed it into the colour that I've already got there. Steve from Newton Aycliffe, hi. I think we've had this discussion before, but it rings a bell anyway. I probably told you already, but I'm from Gisborough. Born and bred. No, actually I wasn't born there. What am I on about? I was actually born near Bristol. But I did grow up there. See, this is the bit where it's kind of like, you know, you're going to jump off the cliff, you're going to decide where the thing's going to go, and it's like, done all of that, thrown a load of stuff down, made a lot of interest in the background, and now it's like it's time to do something. I'm going to fiddle a little bit more. I'm going to bring a little bit slightly higher value in just here. So a lot of the time, you know, I've had very frequently anyway, people have asked me, they say, I find backgrounds very difficult. Like, what colour do you paint your background? And I think that happens, for me, it happens at the photo reference stage. So I create the backgrounds when I'm setting up the subject. So in this case, it's a close to neutral board, which I've painted that colour. And then I've thrown a shadow over it, which makes the shadow area, you know, makes that a little bit warmer and darker. Hi Deborah, I think you will find ChromaMagic to be a very, very useful tool. Louise says, it's good to hear you speak of insecurities regarding landscapes. Of course, yeah. I mean, anytime you embark on some, it's not an entirely new subject to me, but it's you know, obviously I mostly paint still life. That's what I feel a lot more confident with still life. Louise says, I struggle getting my canvas to look like my vision of what I want to portray in landscapes. New struggles challenge our brains. Yeah, absolutely. But you just have to kind of, you have to accept us. I mean, I think that's been, it's in the job description of a painter to have to push into uncertainty. You know, it's kind of what we do, isn't it? So you can try and avoid it. And I'm sure there are painters that do, and painters that prefer to work on, you know, let's say, safer things. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you can make any kind of painting you like. As Loomis said, people can only like, you know, you're free to do whatever you like. People can only like or dislike what you do. Except, of course, that it can be a little bit soul-destroying if people don't like what you do. But still, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone says, I don't really like your painting. I don't think it's very good. Look at it this way, at least you're not starving in Gaza. You know, I don't mean that flippantly. I think it's horrendous what's happening there. But, you know, this is what we're doing here. This is just paint, and it's allowed to go wrong, and there is no cost, really, apart from the cost of the paint. So I'm looking for the form of the flowers. And, you know, I think it's good to be aware of, like, how incredibly lucky we are. Even with all the madness that's going on at the moment, especially in the US. I mean, just crazy, crazy. But even with all the madness going on in the world. You know, my kids are going to eat tonight. They're going to sleep in a warm bed. This is just paint. I'm trying to so I've got the grid up in ChromaMagic. I've kind of roughed out where the grid lines would be here, and I'm just kind of trying to eke out the shape of the flower. I don't really mind about it being absolutely perfect, but I want it to be flower-like. I want it to be about in the right place, you know. Michelle says, I need a ChromaMagic emoji. Wouldn't it be brilliant if you could make your own emojis for YouTube and just kind of, I think maybe I've gone a bit too low. Maybe I've overestimated the size. It would be brilliant if you could make your own little ChromaMagic emoji, and maybe you can do that. Oh, eldest boy is home. And he's just had his, he's done his geography GCSE today. Got my fingers crossed for him. It's what I love about the wipeout technique, is it almost paints itself. It's like, I mean, we've had this discussion like with people who've done workshops with me where we've done wipeouts. You know, I've taught the wipeout technique. And people are like, I don't want to touch my wipeout because it looks so nice. There's something about the texture it makes, and I personally think it's something to do with the way that it encourages you to think differently, you know, to paint light and shadow, and to work with mass instead of line. There's something about the freedom. Is that actually might be too small? It's so hard to judge at this stage. Yeah, so anyone who's, you know, I know a lot of you live in the US, so honestly, you have my sympathies. It's just, I mean, there's a certain amount of that happening everywhere at the moment. We have our own problems here in the UK, but you know, you're in a different league there at the moment. It's just, I mean, just lately, it's just been incredibly crazy, and it must be so hard. I mean, if you're watching and you're a Trump supporter, you know, I mean, firstly, why? Why? Secondly, apologies, but, you know, I'm not going to hide my the way I feel about things. I have, if anybody's wondering why you don't see me on Facebook anymore, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be coming back or not, but, you know, maybe at some point, but I pretty much stopped posting there. I don't want to give Zuckerberg my content. You know, I'm disgusted. I don't like the way the platform is going anyway. It's becoming almost unusable. It's just like ads all the time and irrelevant stuff that I don't want to see. It's turning me off. But I also don't want to give them my content for free, you know. Are they about right size, or are they too small? I think they're too small. I think I'm doing I was worried about making everything too big, and now I'm worried about making everything too small. Because once I start painting, there's not a lot I can do about it, is there really? It's like you just got to kind of keep going with how it is. Howard Agassan says, thanks for the tutorials. You are so welcome. I mean, basically, I'm here every Friday for free for anybody who wants to come along, paint with me, or, you know, watch the recording later and paint. For people who are in my school, you also get the reference photos. I mean, you can probably get away with it just from what you can see on the screen. You know, you can screenshot them. But for a high-res one, you know, if you're in my online school or you've done a course with me, then you'll be in my community. In the community, I have to say, all of you here, I know a lot of you here are in the community, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of you. Because I go in there now. I mean, I used to try and answer like most of the posts, and it's so busy now, I just can't keep up. And I love that, you know, I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant that it is that way. That's where the side of the bottle would be, about here. Begin to ghost the bottle in. Because I'm kind of worried about, things don't seem to be in the right place, but I think they kind of are, and it's I'm just not really, I'm a little bit unsure about where things are ending up and how close to the actual you know, I don't mind about it being perfect, but I don't want it to be like wildly out. So I'm just using the rag to kind of rough in where things are probably going to go. Yeah, and I'm sorry if anybody really doesn't want to hear anything about politics while we're painting, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's all one, it's all life, you know. And it's not politics, it's life and death, and just the way things are at the moment is just, you can't really ignore it. I don't know. What do you think? Are my flowers about the right size, or are they too small? I'm having such a hard time deciding. Because once I'm committed and I started painting, it's like, you know, that's it, really. You can't, I suppose I could wipe out again. Maybe I'm just being a little bit namby-pamby and I should just start painting it and see what happens. Kate says, this is like a stage waiting for something to happen. Yeah. Yeah, it is, it is. Jesus. Now, can you tell me if I pronounced your name right? Is it Jesus? Is that right? Because I don't, you know, I really don't want to get it wrong. And one of the problems I have is my upbringing hasn't really prepared me for being able to pronounce like everybody's names from all over the world that I see on my live streams correctly. Let me know. Just tell me, yes, that's right, or no, you just absolutely butchered my name. Ruby says they're too small. Michelle says you can make YouTube super stickers. Ooh. David reckons they're the right size. That's interesting. Jacqueline says, I paint landscapes and I'm here in the school to learn still life, which is a greater challenge. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I suppose in a way it shouldn't really matter, should it? What we're painting, it's like, but it does though. I think they feel just a little bit small, my flowers. Too right, Honora. Yeah. Too right. Sally thinks they look right. That's nice. Fran says the community is an island of sanity. Good. I'm so glad. No, that's a really nice thing for me to feel that I can contribute. Jan says she gridded the image and mine looks spot on. Ooh, maybe I should just go for it then. Joanne thinks they're slightly small. No, it's like, I think we're even voted. We've got even votes. The big one is okay, but the little one is small. Ooh. Hello, Susan. Thank you very much. Jesus, it was right. Yes. Yeah. Because I think, I mean, I just feel really bad about it when I get people's names wrong. You could make them bigger. Gisela says she's made her flowers bigger, which is fair enough, you know, if you want to do that. JB says, I'm intrigued about this motorbike landscape endeavor. Don't get me started on motorbikes. Honestly, if there's one thing I love as much as painting, apart from my family, of course, you know, you've got to say that, haven't you? It's motorbikes. So my plan is to put the two together. So I've just got a Royal Enfield Himalayan. For any motorbike aficionados out there, I didn't get the new version. I got the old one, the 411. It's a wonderful bike. It looks like an old British classic bike, and I just love it to bits. This flower is too small. And my plan is to load this thing up. Royal Enfield Himalayans seem extremely good at carrying a large amount of stuff. They won't carry it anywhere very quickly, but they'll go over any terrain carrying a lot of stuff. And that's what I've got this bike for, because I can load it up with painting kit, camping gear maybe too, and I can go into some of the most beautiful and far-flung parts of the UK, paint, take some photos, bring back the raw material, and then share it. Let's start thinking about getting some colour on here. So I am going to use, I don't know if Sarah's here today, but she very generously sent me, as well as a painting, she sent me some Q-tips, which over here we call, what do we call them? Cotton buds, I suppose. So let's try, I'm going to get a little bit of solvent on one, and I'm going to see about, what are these, you know? And I'm going to see about if I can, so I dip it in the solvent. This is just terps. Did I get any on there? Yes. And see if I can just kind of wipe out the lights with it. Let's just kind of see if I can do a bit of a drawing with it here. Oh yeah, look at that. So there's a light there which is created by a petal. Why am I not a Trump supporter? That's an interesting comment. Well, let's just say I haven't had an empathy bypass and I actually care about other people. We go really light here. I care about the fact that people I don't know won't be able to afford medical care that they need. I care about that. I don't only care about myself. I don't hate people because of the colour of their skin. My kids are black. Don't get me started. Oh. I think women should be treated with respect. I don't think children should be abused. I think the rule of law is important. There's a few reasons for you. Actually, this works remarkably well. It's almost starting to kind of carve out the form and keep the values quite close at the same time. And if you don't like politics with your art, I'm sure and I know there are lots of other painting channels out there on YouTube that you can watch. See, now I can start to work like these values. I can see now that these values need to be closer here on this one. It's such a lovely and subtle way to work this. It's almost like you get to a point where you don't want to paint over it because it looks nice as it is. This works really well, like a Q-tip with a little bit of solvent on it. Is for this kind of subtle working of values is really nice. I still have a funny feeling the flowers are too small, but I'm committed now, I suppose. Well, to the extent that you ever are committed really with the painting. I mean, I still can change things, right? So I'm wondering if I can kind of glaze into these areas a little bit to add a little bit of chroma maybe, rather than actually, you know, I might paint the middle of the flowers first and see how that works. I'm just trying to establish the values in a kind of a drawing. This reminds me now of Jan Manx. I'll put his name in the chat actually. He's a favourite painter of mine. Lou says, they are flowers, they can be any size you want. I love bikes too. What did you get? Royal Enfield Himalayan 411. All of my bikes, I will admit that I have too many. This is now the 5th one. They're all variants of off-road machines, although this one will be a little more on-road. Hello Thomas, good to see you. I hope Tuscany was kind to you. I hope you enjoyed the food. This painter, to have a look at this painter, is almost like a symbolist. Very emotional paintings. Jan Manx, I love his work. I love his work. I don't think I could ever paint quite like that. It's almost like, it's symbolist painting really. But it's very emotional, very strong, emotionally strong work. I think kind of has a quality, an otherworldly quality to it that I look at and I think, I would love to be able to get that into my work. But I'm still, I think, a little bit too tied to how things look, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's not that I wish I wasn't, but yeah, I think value-wise, that's looking not too bad. Fran says, yeah, that is exactly my problem with the landscape. Too much information and never sure how to edit. Yeah. Well, one of my specialties is simplifying, I hope anyway, is simplifying complex objects. So, hopefully I will be able to bring some of that in. You see, we need to drop the chroma here. The value is right, but there's too much chroma because you see how I've pushed the paint back and it's become very transparent. That brings the chroma up. But this is in the light, so I need to drop the chroma there. So I'm going to mix in some more of the background colour that I used up here. Drop the chroma. Let's not get too dark though. Mostly black and white. Just drop the chroma and you'll see it will make it feel like there's light there. It feels suddenly like there's more light. And that's not the hue so much. It is slightly, but it's the difference is more chroma based. This is too light, I think, here. Spatula, who knew? One of my favourite painting tools. Now, just because it keeps you from getting too obsessed with perfection and you just have to go with the flow a little bit, you know. And it creates all of these wonderful marks that, you know, it's just, love it. So at the bottom of the bottle, let's establish that now. It's going to be there. Yeah, bottom of the bottle. The bottle's starting to appear and I haven't painted it yet. I'm quite glad about that. Yeah, Jacqueline, I think you have a good eye. She says maybe the flower on the right is a bit small. I think I agree. Kathy, thank you. I wish more people would care about each other too. Be more human. We're not here for very long, you know. The best legacy I think that you can leave is to have helped a few people along the way. Survived yourself and to have helped a few people along the way. Whatever happened to caring about other people, especially the less fortunate? When did we become, or when did, I never did actually, but when did such a large proportion of the population of the Western world become so uncaring, self-involved? Let's paint the middle of the flowers, and then I'm going to put the I really don't base my opinions on what the news tells me. I can tell you that for nothing. The news is full of nonsense. If I based my opinions on what the news told me, I would approve of what Israel is doing in Gaza, wouldn't I? I would approve of children being shot in the head. I would think that was fine if I believed what the news told me. Steve McQueen, the painter, done it. Oh, in my dreams. I think he's a much better rider than I'll ever be, or he was. I'm going to come back. I realise I've been firing off a little bit today. I'm not sure why. I wasn't intending to. It just happened. But I'm going to come back and read the comments like every now and again and see what happens. And of course, I'm going to delete all of the trolls. So there's no point doing it, you know, because you ain't going to last. Unless I forget, of course. Let's get some colour in the middle of the flowers. You know what? I think a lot of the magic of painting, to me, it's like it's already happening at this point. You know, I'm not just trying to paint what's there. I mean, it's close in terms of value and everything and the overall shapes and where things are. But I'm trying to create an atmosphere. I'm trying to create a kind of an atmosphere and to intensify, if anything, the atmosphere that I've already tried to create when I set up the reference photo earlier on today. So for me, it's all about the light. You know, there's something fascinating about light, and that's partly what's interesting me. Well, it's a big part of what's interesting me about going out and doing more landscape painting, like painting into the sun. You know, and the different light quality that you get in evening time and that kind of thing. You know, I really want to try to capture some of that. Basically, the stuff that gets into my soul, that makes me feel something. You know, that's what I would like to be able to try and get in paint. And that's kind of, you know, what I'm trying to do with these, although I'm still obviously attached to the reality of how things look. Kathy, you use Q-tips as well, of course, don't you? Yeah. Finally, I've discovered Q-tips. I know, right? Yeah, the Jan Manx White Rabbit, Jan. What a beautiful painting. You know, he has, there's a really, really fine sense of composition, I think. Really fine. Sandra says, do we have to add more couch on the parts we wish to continue to work? Yeah, I would. You mean on this painting now? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, this is quite dry now, but the paint is so thick here I can just paint into it. I mean, there's no way I could get oil on it. But if you mean here, I guess you could. But how would you get it on there and then still be able to wipe it off? It's an interesting question because my panel is dry. You know, because I use solvent on it, which cut the oil, and the solvent has now evaporated. Let's try. I'm going to get a little bit of oil. Make sure I don't pick up too much, because the problem with painting into oil is that you need to make sure you don't put too much down. So I'm going to try and paint it on thinly. Just the same medium that I used at the start. And so I'm picking it up and then I'm wiping it off. And let's just see if you can. I've never tried this before, Sandra, but that's an interesting question. So I've painted a little bit. And then if I remove as much as I possibly can, hopefully we won't end up with a problem with too much oil. The 411 looks like a stout macho bike. Honestly, I have no time for that macho nonsense that you get in the biker world. I can't be doing with it. Himalayans are like they're a bit of a, I don't know, they're a bit of an outlier, really. They're slow. They're not very quick. I was just out on my new one today and it's slow, you know. I can't really overtake cars on it if they're doing more than about 50 miles an hour. I just got to sit behind them. It's a grunty old bike, but it's made for just going anywhere, you know. Jacqueline uses them too. Cotton swabs. Maybe I'll call them cotton swabs now. Oh, Heather, no, it's always Fridays are always at 5. So Dawn says a live stream landscape tutorial from the great outdoors would be fun and challenging. Honestly, I don't think I could do it. I think what I will do is, because it would be so difficult, I was thinking about that, it would be so difficult to show you what I was working from at the same time. So I think probably what I will do for that kind of thing is to do some paintings out there, take some photos of the subject, and then come back and, you know, I'm still working out the details basically, because I want to make sure that it's as obviously as useful as I can possibly make it. Thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate that. I'm just wondering how many people I've lost today. Frankly, I don't care. The one on the right, like, let's just get that color. I mean, it's a yellow. I'm looking at the middle, you know, I'm going to put the middle in to these flowers and then see, like, what would it still need? It's lightish, it's about a value 7, slightly greenish yellow, so I'm cad yellow and I'm bringing in some green gold. I know the chroma wants to be pretty high, so let's go down to about a value 7 with this and see where we are. That's maybe a tad dark. And I'm just going to, almost like an impressionism, I'm just going to put a nub of this color in there and see how it works. We'll have a small hog for this job. Cornelisons are my absolute favorite hogs. They last for years and they're wonderful. then there's a kind of a darker bit where it goes a little bit sort of a little bit warm in the middle. I mean, I'm not going to leave it there, but it's going to need a bit more than that. It's not, you know, it's interesting sometimes how little you can paint and have something be like almost there, like, you know, a lot of the way there, without really doing very much. Like a lot of the time I'm interested in finding out what's the smallest amount of detail that I can put and still have the thing live. You know, I want it to be, I want it to live in a very simplified form, and then it's easier to judge if the colors are right. And you know, if the overall value balance is right, you're not getting obsessed with the detail. And then a lot of the time I find that if you approach things that way, you need to paint a lot less detail than you think to finish it off. This needs to be darker. So I'm trying to find a good color for about value 3 we want. So I'm checking the values in ChromaMagic as I go. That looks about right. It looks like it might be dark though, but then I haven't put the shadows in here yet. So let's get this in. Something like that maybe. Because it is quite dark in the middle there, and I'm going to put some, the next thing I'm going to do is to put some shadow colors into this flower on the left. And let's try and make sure that they're good. So I want about a value 6. Let's do some, I'll bring up the palette so you can see me mixing here. I'm going to start with white. I want about a value 6, which is like here. It's like a slightly greenish yellow, but it's not that high chroma, so I'm going to put in some raw umber, a little bit of green gold, tiny bit of cad yellow, too light still. I'm bringing in the raw umber to bring the chroma down. I don't want to bring the chroma down too far because I want, remember what I was saying about wanting more chroma in the shadows, but it is still very low chroma. So if I push the chroma too high, visually it won't work. It won't feel like shadow. You know, a lot of making something feel like light and feel like shadow and have that quality to something where it feels like you could reach out and touch it. A lot of that comes from chroma and value relationships. We're about a 6. We're about a 6. Let's try putting this color on the shadow area. I'm going to use this brush. It's a Rosemary's. I like these for flowers. Rosemary's Angled Eclipse. Not the coma ones, it's like a flat one. It should be about the right value, I think, for a shadow area like in here. I just want to get the shape right. It looks dark, but maybe just because everything else is too light. Still at the moment. And then there's a lower chroma. That one has quite a bit of chroma. There's the rest of it is the same value but lower chroma. So raw umber and white to the same value, and then mix it in a little bit into that color, and I should be able to get a shadow about here. So I'm looking for the shadow forms because the shadow areas will create the form for me as long as I manage the values well. and the chroma. So like when I stand back, is it starting to feel like light and shadow? And you should have that when you put a block of a shadow color in. You should have that almost immediately. You should have that feeling where if you stand back, yes, it does look like shadow, or no, it doesn't. If it doesn't, there's something off, and it's, you know, it's most likely the value or the chroma. Those are the ones to look at first. The hue is less important. The hue is the one everyone obsesses over. Yeah, that's feeling like, if I stand right back and squint, that's feeling like shadow. So you can paint things really, really simply if you get light and shadow relationships that work. It really is all about the light. And then into this, I'm going to paint the light areas. Once I've got these shadows in. So I'll generally paint the shadows a little bit too big and then cut into them with the light. So I'm gradually moving up the value range, because this side is shadow, but there's light traveling through it, because the poppy petals are incredibly thin, papery, and you want to get that feeling of the light traveling through while still saving your very highest values for the lights. And so let's try and get some clean white out of this mess I've made of my glob of white here. Tiny, tiny touch of, no, that's too much. My white is lost. I need to clean up and put some new white up. It's contaminated with phthalo green. It's like there's no coming back from that. How's this looking, everybody? What do you think? Shadow's coming? You know what, Anne? Feel free to leave. Really, if you don't like it, why sit around and troll? Just go and find somebody else to watch. Thankfully, I'm not the only person that cares about other people. I'm really not. In fact, I think you'll find you're in the minority there. I've lost the lid of my white. What have I done with it? Oh, over here. What do you think? Is it looking like shadow? I think the values are about right, but I think I've been too light here actually, which I thought was too dark at first in the middle. So a bit more white. Oh dear, someone set the dog off. So I've got about the right value there. I'm going to try and place this light over the shadow. To create the feeling of this petal and being out here. And this is why I like these brushes, because they're almost like petal shaped already. Got my hands shaking today, try and get that in straight. Create a light shape. And try and paint it in so it gets gradually softer as it goes round to the right, as it disappears into the shadow. And I don't mind bringing that value down a little bit of that white, because I think the white is a little bit too high value on its own. Yeah, I mean, inevitably, if I start talking about my political views online, then some people are going to agree and some people aren't going to agree. You know, you have a choice. You don't have to stay and listen to me. If you don't like it. I don't mind if you do stay. I'm quite happy, you know, to give you useful information about painting. If that's what you're staying for, great, stay, I don't mind. I don't hate you, I just don't understand you. I do hate the people who are doing it though. They're on a different level entirely. So I'm trying to get a hard edge with a light up here, the edge of the flower, and I'm allowing the paint to hopefully kind of create that, a little bit of that papery texture around the top. I find that lead white is generally better at this than titanium. She's starting to come, I think, a little bit at a time. Yeah, so I used to try and be really circumspect and not, you know, not say too much. Or, you know, sometimes I would post something on Facebook and just because I couldn't believe what was happening. I mean, this was like in the first time round with Trump, you know. And then I would sort of back off a little bit because I thought, oh, you know what, it's not worth getting into with people. But these days, it's just gone so mad. It's so desperate. So many people are hurting. The things that are happening are just beyond the point for me where you can decide not to, just to ignore it. Like silence is complicity. Trying to get this. Not light enough. I'm just trying to get that little bit that kind of sticks out there. I didn't have enough paint on the brush and it wasn't light enough. Just trying to make some hard edges around the edge where I can, just to sort of bring out the form a little bit. But I've dropped the value just like a tiny bit here from where it is over the other side. So I'm hoping I might be able to try and get that feeling of the light sort of traveling through. But it's, I mean, the values are so close, I'm not even sure I can do it. I think this is too dark here, too high chroma, and a little bit too dark. I'll try and get a slightly lighter, lower chroma version. If I want to lower the chroma and make it closer to neutral, I'm basically bringing in a little bit of raw umber and a little bit of black. I really feel like this petal here is important. That's what I wanted. I wanted that to feel like something that's overlaying what was behind it. I kind of feel that's, you know, I find a lot of the time with things like this, if you get most of it something like, right, if there's one or two bits you can bring out to really kind of feel like there's real form there, it does a lot of the work for you. Like it means you don't have to finish everything quite to the same sort of level. Does that make sense? No. Trying to go a little bit lighter here. These are tough. These flowers are tough. So subtle. And I kind of feel like this is maybe I really want to get some of the detail in these, and that maybe another session on this painting. I do say that a lot on live streams though. The reason this one is here is because I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about working a lot of texture in around here, probably not doing that much more to the flower apart from in the middle, but working more texture around here, glazing the shadows. You know, I'm just thinking that there's might be more I can bring out. And this one might end up being like that too. So at the moment, I'm mostly looking at it from a distance and trying to decide, you know, if I think I've got the colours about right, things are in about the right place, the values are working. I definitely need some more dark on the inside so I can feel the values in the in the rest of the flower a bit. That changes things somewhat. You hear that? Eldest boy is practicing his violin. That's not bad, is it? He's had a geography exam today and come home and he's practicing his violin. I suspect he's been, let's say, encouraged to do it. He probably wouldn't be doing it by choice today. Bless him. Yeah, I think someone said, Robin said? More grey, like some of the shadows need to be closer to neutral. I would agree, yeah, I think that's right. That one is starting to come. Let's have a look at flower number 2. Let's check the comments actually, because I haven't. Yeah, good point. Michelle says they're tough and pretty small on that panel. I almost did this one 7x5. I'm so glad I didn't. But I kind of feel like it might be good to go back in like on a second layer and just really bring out a few of the details and try and get some of that more kind of papery consistency. Tasha says, has anyone taken life drawing classes at Raw Umber in Stroud? Just curious. I haven't taken life drawing there, but I did do a portrait workshop which was taught by, I was an attendee and it was taught by, let's get some colour in here, that would be nice. Anastasia Pollard. For anyone who is thinking about doing a portrait workshop, Anastasia's brilliant, and she teaches quite often at Raw Umber as well. I mean, she's a really, really good painter, a lovely person, and really good teacher. Not all good painters are good teachers, but she's really, really good. I would recommend her unreservedly if you fancy doing a portrait workshop. Really, really good. Her approach to colour is entirely different to mine. But that was part of the reason that I went. She teaches like a version of the Zorn palette, but I think it's a really useful one. You know, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Learned a lot. I don't know if this black smudge here is bothering me. I think it's bothering me, and I think before I go any further, I'm going to take it out. And I'm going to put some chroma in there instead. Transparent red oxide, green gold. One of the things I like to do to intensify shadows is to push the chroma, and a mix of transparent red oxide and green gold are really good for that. Prefer that now, I think. This has it's getting a bit of a quality to it that I like, I think. Yeah, so I don't know about the life drawing classes there. I don't know who teaches them at Raw Umber, but the space is really nice, you know, and you know, they're good there. I think they're good for what it's worth. Thank you, Laura. Achingly beautiful. What a lovely thing to say. Michelle says, that reminds me I need to do the drawing for Monday's session. Right, we've got a workshop on at the moment. So actually, I'll just show you all this just quickly, like how I'm teaching the drawing out at the moment, thinking, I mean, this is everything is happening all at once, but this is basically a still life setup. But what I want to show you is like, it's probably difficult to read, but this is a vase, that's the shadow of the vase. But the shadow side of the vase and the cast shadow are one shape. You know, this is all shadow shape. Do you see what I mean? Like, this is how I think about things when I'm painting, and I've tried to illustrate how I'm thinking about things. I'm not thinking so much about the separate objects, I'm thinking more, or at least at the same time, as much about the light and shadow shapes. Louise says, doesn't Michael Harding make lead white in the UK? Yeah, but you can't buy it unless you're a picture restorer. It's just, don't get me started on that one. Jesus says, totally unrelated, but I realised that sometimes my hands shake a bit when I try to paint fine details, and I realised that my muscles are a bit weak. Yeah, it could be that. I've also had 4 cups of coffee today, so it might have something to do with why my hands are shaking. Probably not the best idea, right? The thing is, should I paint the bottle green or should I leave it? Is it better like this or would it be better green? Let's do this. I'm just catching up on the comments at the moment. Yeah, Dawn, you can get lead white from supremepaints.co.uk. Alfie's mum says, what breed of dog do you have? She is a mixed border collie poodle. So you can imagine, she's extremely smart, and she is she has very high energy levels, and she's just the most fun. She's brilliant. I love her to bits. So this is maybe like what Jan Manx would paint like if he was painting, if he was a bit more realistic paint. I don't know. Sandal family, remind me of your name. I try to remember people's names when they're different from their YouTube handle, but then I tend to forget. Set your dog off, yeah. So some of this paint is fairly thin and some of it is really thick. It's difficult to see online, isn't it, where some of it is thin and some of it is thick, I know. Just catching up with the comments, and I'm going to go in with flour too. Mark says, too much chroma in the shadows. Yeah, I deliberately pushed it because I like it. It's an aesthetic choice. It's not... I know that I'm moving away from what's there. Do you know what I mean? So it's not... It's arguably not too much because it's a conscious choice I've made rather than a mistake. Does that make sense? It's an aesthetic choice. You may disagree with it, you know, which is fine. Of course, it is. My shadows are higher chroma, but I like it. I like it like that. Not in every painting. Very true, Kate. Thank you, David. I'm glad someone agrees with me. I suspect most of you do, and I'm kidding. David says he's 100% behind me. I knew you would be anyway, because you're a very sensible man. Um, Sarah, good to see you. I was talking about you earlier on because I drew these out with Q-tips. You want the green bottle. Everybody wants the bottle to be green. The bottle is too close to the flowers. I really like subtlety though. I kind of wonder like what, you know, if I just didn't bother taking this painting any closer to reality and I just left the bottle as it was, you know, perhaps just put in a couple of little, you know, a couple of little darker values here and there. Is that, you know, Sandra wants it to be pink. Ooh. I think, I'm not sure I'm capable of doing that. Yeah, that's right, Laura. They're so smart. She is so smart. You can almost see patterns developing in her brain. You do something a couple of times. We just had a spade. She's had a few seasons and we just had a spade. Which I didn't want to do, but it's like, you know, I know it's a sensible thing to do. And we paid extra for it to be done with keyhole surgery, no laparoscopy. And for a week I had to carry her. She sleeps upstairs with us, with my wife and I. And I had to carry her upstairs because she's not allowed to climb the stairs. And after I'd done it twice, she started stopping at the bottom of the stairs and lifting her paw up to be lifted up. It's like, I think that's the kind of difference with, you know, when you learn something really quickly, like, you know, I definitely used to learn more quickly when I was younger. The patterns, you know, the patterns are created more quickly in your brain. That's right. Kathy's telling Sarah that I'm a Q-tip convert. It's so true. You know that Q-tips are going to be arriving on the materials list of workshops pretty soon. Alfie's mum says it doesn't need to be done. It's fine as it is. It's about the flowers, not the bottle. True, true. For people who don't know, can you remind us what you mean by chroma, especially in the shadows? Chroma is the intensity of the color. So very low chroma is very close to gray or neutral. So this area here is very low chroma. This area here is higher chroma. It's darker, but it's higher chroma. You know, it has a little bit more color in it, basically. Like this part of the background is higher chroma than this part of the background, but not very much. Jacqueline says, Paul, you're becoming more of an abstract artist. I think I like hanging out in that area in between more these days. Let's do a little bit on flower number 2. I kind of feel like this is the main flower anyway, and it's got at least to a point where I'm reasonably happy that it's coming together. I do feel a little bit like these flowers are going to need more detail to really work well. Like this one, the orange one, that works for me, just the shouty color, that big shouty color. I just love it so much. I kind of feel like it doesn't need much more on the flower itself. These, because they're more subtle, I kind of feel like they might benefit from a bit more detail, maybe a second layer. So I haven't painted them too thickly at the moment. Subtle, so the shadow side is only a little bit darker than the light side. Very, very small amount. And I'm happy just to suggest this flower, really. And try and keep it simple. And then I'll bring in the light. Try and get a hard edge out here so we can feel the papery quality. So I'm having to reload the brush each time pretty much. And then I'm going to try and, you know, I'm trying to use the brush to create the shape. Whether it's exactly what's in the photo, don't mind so much as, you know, as long as I'm getting the feeling of that paperiness. And that needs a bit of, actually does it? No, I don't think it does. I was thinking maybe it needs a bit of darker green in there, but I'm not sure it does really. More suggested this one. It's really, really subtle. Oh, didn't mean to do that, no. I was just trying to bring a little bit of lighter value to show the light coming through, and it was too heavy-handed and just not right. But I think I want a hard edge at the bottom here, though. Let's try it and see. Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I definitely do. Even though it's shadow, and I'm always saying, anyone who's done a workshop with me will tell you, I'm always saying, soften the edge in the shadow. We'd have crit sessions, and probably you could get an AI to do my crit sessions. Just, you know, the algorithm would always default for soften the edges in the shadows. But in this case, no, because I'm not sure why. It just feels like I tried it and it worked. So harder edge in the shadows on this one just seems to bring the delicacy of the flower out. Something's wrong here. Maybe the value of that shadow. Now, as I'm getting through it, I'm starting to, you know, if something stands out as being not quite right, I'll try to fix it. It's harder now because I can't use the brush to make the shape, but like maybe that value is a bit too low there. Let's get some green in for our bottle, just so we can see. I'll tell you what I'm going to do actually before I do that. I'm going to suggest the stems. Green, gold, white, very small amount of cadmium. So I'm looking for the light parts of the stems first. Now it's gone too yellow now. Bring it back with phthalo. If I can get the light parts to work well, I can just suggest the shadow parts. I don't think there's any way around using a synthetic round for this. That's probably too wide. Smaller one. These also are rosemaries. These are the botanical set, I think, appropriately enough. So coming out of the bottle, there's a highlight of the stem. It comes up and just a suggestion of one on this side. And a slightly darker, slightly bluer green. Inside the bottle too, you can see. Stems a little bit. And then I want nice blue-green. There's a really nice, actually quite a strong blue-green down the side there. Has a lot more phthalo in it. Let's see how, I just don't want to overpower the flowers with it. It's a nice color. It doesn't have to be there. Let's try putting it in, and I'm going to knock the chroma back a little bit with the black. So if I want to paint an area, I don't know if you can see, like I picked up some paint on the knife. I'll mix up some paint, and then I kind of scrape the knife into it so that I get a build-up of paint like on one side of the knife like that. And then I'll try and bring this in. Much darker one next to it as well. So sometimes, I seem to be saying this a lot lately, sometimes these sessions are teaching sessions and sometimes I'm just painting. And today, to be fair, I'm just enjoying the painting. I'm really loving painting this subject here. Darker. And let's get, let's try flat hog. Try and get that colour right in the middle. Mostly raw umber. It is, the value is like about a value 4. I am out of white now. I need to put some more white out. You know where you can see through the glass in the main body of the bottle, in between the stems where they come down, like around here. I find those areas are really kind of key in making it feel like glass, because you've got a combination of the colour of the glass and the background that you're seeing through it, and the chroma is very low. I want a value 4, about. Just try this colour here. Yeah. Yeah. Then it gets darker. More raw umber in the mix as we go a little bit higher up to where the water starts, which is just above the background, probably about here. So I'm looking for like big shapes, big areas that I can put in. Don't want to get sucked into trying to paint the bottle. I just want to paint the shapes that make it the bottle up, you know. Is it detracting? This is the question I'm asking myself. It's like, I love painting stuff like this, but is it beginning to detract at all from the flowers? Because they're very, you know, they're really subtle, the flowers. And yes, it is this colour, but it doesn't mean I have to paint it that colour. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with the comments. I will catch up soon. More white. Part of the thing I think with palette knife painting is that you have to be prepared to use a little bit more paint than you might think. It's not like, you know, whoa, that was way too light, wasn't it? The value is so out. I'm mixing it on the palette thinking I'd got it about right. No, sir. How cute it's for wiping out. Oh, very good as it happens. I wanted more chroma, but I didn't want that light. I got that a bit wrong. What is that colour there then? We'll just try a slightly more subtle version. It's just the chroma there is catching my eye and I really like it, but I don't want to push it too high. It was the value I pushed too high, I think. So I suppose I've been getting more interested lately in a kind of painting which exists somewhere between like a really strong visual presence and it also being kind of like semi-abstract at the same time, like almost pushing things to the point where they begin to break down. I'm not really sure I could tell you why I like that. It is drawing me though. I find quite a lot lately. When I say lately, I mean probably in the last year or a couple of years or something. And the more I work, the more I find myself bringing out these abstract qualities. And I know that there are, you know, we covered a lot of this in a workshop recently. I wasn't sure, you know, because it was slightly experimental anyway, I wasn't sure, you know, even if I should have done it as a workshop, but I think for the people that were on there, it was a positive experience. I hope so anyway. And we were, a lot of the time, we were deliberately going beyond what we see, changing colors, like building in a lot of texture. It was intensely enjoyable workshop to teach. So I'm doing as much of this as like just trying to suggest it I can. Let's decide, establish where with a hard edge, the right side of the bottle is. You know, maybe the painting becomes about the bottle and the opportunities for making it like a semi-abstract part of the painting. The main thing is when you're painting glass like this is getting the highlights and getting the right place. Lead white is really good for this. So if I pick up like a gob of lead white, put it down, and then let's see if I can kind of mold it to create and drag it about a bit to create the corner, because it is a slightly square bottle. Trying to get away with suggesting as much as I possibly can without actually painting too much. There actually is quite a lot of complexity in the bottle, but I'm trying to... I want to get to a point where I feel like the bottle is there and then stop. And if anything, stop too soon. When it's still just vaguely suggested and not really... you know, not really established. Like just when it's starting to get established, like stop then. Make something more interesting than just too close a copy of the photo. Softening brush coming out. Oh, do you know? Pulled a load of lead white around. I'm going to try and leave some areas a little bit more defined and then soften some, pull some around. I kind of like the blue of the bottle actually. Now it's in there, I don't want to take it out. I'm still a little bit suspicious of it. You know, whether it's kind of detracting too much from the flowers. But I'm enjoying painting it, and I suppose that's good enough a reason to keep it in, is it? I don't know. I kind of feel like it might be enough of a reason to keep it, just because I like it. Establish the water level by putting in the shadow underneath where you see a slightly refracted version of where the table meets the background. Really messed this bit up though. So part of the secret, I don't mean secret's not the right word, the knack of making things like this work is I'm not sure I'm getting it too well today, but it's finding the bits that make it work, that make it feel that it's there. You know, some parts are totally unnecessary, and some parts will really help it feel. I've got to take that white out. Some parts will really make it, you know, you'll put just a couple of colours in, like this one here, and it will really make it feel that something is, you know, physically there. It creates a visual impression of something without being an exact copy of the photo. I like this bit here, starting to feel like, you know, there's some nice light coming in here. Add a bit of texture to it and it will feel, because you only really see texture in the light. But I do want some light. My white has got, everything is getting contaminated with phthalo green. It's like once you've got it out, once the genie's out of the bottle, it gets everywhere. It really does just get everywhere. I haven't gone low enough there, so. Sorry, I am being extremely rude and not keeping up with the comments. I will try very shortly. I'm very involved in this at the moment. And sometimes I must admit it is difficult to talk and to paint. There's something really interesting happening around the bottle for me at the moment anyway. It's starting to hit that point that I was talking about where it's not all established, there's just enough there for you to start to feel that the form is there. And I'm trying to pick out, like, this lighter part of the background around it is enough to pick out the shape, just like this dark edge here was enough to pick out the shape. And I don't want to push it to the point where it doesn't need to go. You know what? This painting has reached a point where it needs to stop, where I need to stop and pretty much, I think, and think about where it's going to go next. And I think another session is going to happen on this one. Maybe it'll be next week. So tell me something. Anyone who's here and likes to take painting workshops and maybe has taken one with me before. What do you so I've got a flower workshop coming up. The cat is out of the bag. I'm so enjoying painting these, like, it's not exactly simple, but you know, uncomplicated, let's say, flower paintings, like without a huge amount of flowers to paint, where you have a strong, like this is to me is quite a strong, compositionally it's quite strong. This doesn't line up. This doesn't line up. So I'm in two minds about it. So what I would really love to do is, like, you know, the Mastering the Magic, the first version, to do a workshop like that, but with flower paintings, like kind of like this, like fairly simple subjects. But I can't decide. I'm trying to decide whether it would be better to do one where we have almost all one session paintings, or it could be like you know, you could start off, like, say, over, because they're always 6 weeks. It could be like the first painting could be one session, the second one 2 sessions, and the third one 3 sessions. So you would do 3 paintings. Or you know, do you prefer the idea of, would you prefer the idea of painting like all single or almost all single session paintings? Basically the same approach, using ChromaMagic to nail the colors. Have as I am on the new Mastering the Magic workshop now. What's happening there? Giving a drawing video and a mixing video beforehand, so you start and you have the basic subject drawn out. You know where it's going to go. You just need to be working on the application of the paint. Would you rather do like 5 or 6 small paintings and have the chance to work through more subject? Or would you rather do like one session painting, then a 2 session painting, then a 3 session painting? That's 6, it is. What do you think? I've been totally remiss and just got lost in this painting and have not been keeping up at all. I'm sorry. Let me come back to the... Alfie's mum says, I'm falling in love with this painting. Thank you so much, because so am I. I wasn't sure if I was really expecting to, but it's going in a direction that I really like. It's similar to this one, but different. Do you know what I mean? In the paint handling and everything, it's got that kind of abstract quality to it, but there's a form. If I stand right back, I just feel like it might help it. The reason I was spent so long working on this division is because it shows, it echoes this, where you can see the division of the water. You know, so this is the division between the background and the tabletop refracted through the bottle. And I wanted to get that in because I think it's going to help it to live a little. There's areas I feel like it needs a little bit more work still. There's parts I haven't had time to finish clearly enough. Like this bit down here, I need to establish this bottom edge where this corner. That's a bit better, but not quite there yet. I like the bottle like this. I like the high chroma of the bottle. Oh yeah. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, Aesthetic Excursions it was. See if I got any of the paintings that were done Oh, here's one that I'm going to go. This one was done with a lot of wax medium and a cold wax medium and a lot of texture. I'm going to go back into that one at some point and paint some more on it. Really enjoyed that one. I'm trying to think if there's any more of them here that we did as part. Oh yeah, this one was done as part of that workshop as well. Everyone painted a version of this. That needs varnishing because cold wax medium dries very matte. But this is possibly one of my favourites. Oh, by the way, for anyone who was on that workshop, the landscape one, I am going back to it, so there's more to come still. This was one of my favourites. Like, also, that workshop was it was an experiment for me too. You know, so the idea was to give everybody who came permission to go out of their comfort zone and beyond a copy and to venture a little bit into the unknown and hopefully to bring something back from there that they could work into their paintings later. And I think it happened to me while I was teaching it. I think it happened to me as well. Jacqueline says, it's very interesting to study abstract painting. It is. There's a lot of abstract painting I really like. Who's the famous, or the well-known person who did the cold wax book? What's her name? I really love her work, but I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I must have the book around somewhere, but I can't lay my eyes on it. Oh, that's frustrating. I tell you someone who's really good to look at though, who sits somewhere in between. A landscape painter sits somewhere in between realism and abstract. I'll put his name in the chat. I have probably mentioned him before. English painter Fred Cumming. Just recently died. Brilliant painter. Yes, Sarah says, I also find it interesting when parts are more definitely represented and other parts melt away. Yeah, me too. I love that you're getting that in your painting now. The paintings that you do are wonderful. Dirty colour art. I just love your handle. I think that's a brilliant handle. Kathy likes the contrast. Good. Because I think I've decided that I just like it being in there as part of the painting. Tasha says it's pizza day. It's pizza day for us too. What's your favourite topping? Okay, I'll tell you what I like on mine. Black olives, mushrooms, and my wife has just grown a load of red onions, and they are amazing. And I'm going to caramelize some of those today and have those on my pizza. So yum. Oh, Alfie's mum, you've got a schnauzer. I love the schnauzers. Have you got a big one or a miniature one? I think they're brilliant dogs. Kate says it doesn't think it needs a second layer. Maybe not. I just feel, I mean, sometimes there is something about the immediacy of a painting and it does feel like it might not need any more. sometimes, but I would like to bring out this flower a little bit more. I probably would leave that one where it is. And there's some parts of the bottle I would like to define a little bit better, I think. But from a distance, I think it's working nicely. I just would like to bring a little bit more. Catherine says, my border was such a help on the farm. He knew over 100 commands. Wow. Get mad at the shepherd when he made a mistake in herding. Yeah, actually our dog does get rather annoyed with us if we don't play with her enough. Dogs are just brilliant. I mean, I love cats equally. Hello, Jane. Good to see you. Don't worry about being late. That's fine. And don't forget, you can always go back and watch the whole stream. It's been a long one today, actually. However long have I been going? 2 hours. I've just been chatting, putting the world to rights, you know, from my easel, as you do. Painting flowers, trying to make something beautiful out of the reference photo. I'm happy with the way it's going. I think it's. I think the green was right, wasn't it? Really. I feel like it's such a nice contrast because it's high chroma and a very cool green. It's a nice contrast to these more subtle greens up there. I think it kind of works. Thank you, Mark. That's a lovely thing to say. It's a wonderful mix of realism and abstract. That's kind of where I'm going, I have to say, more lately. Thank you, Joan. Thank you very much. Yeah, aesthetic excursions was the... I don't know about like the old workshops. I sometimes think it might be... I do it with some of them if I think were particularly well organised. Sometimes offer the recordings, you know, of the workshops to buy, you know, because it's all recorded and everything, for like a... slightly like a lower price than it was to be actually there at the workshop. Might do that with that one, but it was, I kind of feel a little bit like it's a bit you had to be there as well. A lot of it was just, it was the people that were on it, allowing everybody, you know, allowing each other to experiment and being supportive. It was very, very key to that workshop working, I think, because we were all pushing into areas that we hadn't been in before, including me. So it was it was special. I may do it again at some point, but I kind of feel like it was so special, that one. I don't know if it could be repeated, but maybe something like it. Thank you, dude. Thanks, Louise. Photo confidence, I like that. I didn't know it did that. That's a brilliant comment. Velia says, I like the sucking sound a clean palette knife makes when you press it against thicker paint and then move and apply it in another place. There is a visceral quality to painting with a palette knife, isn't there? There really is. That's well put. Larissa, good to see you, by the way. She says, an illusion of effortless painting, which it is. I mean, you know, that was, a lot of that was hard. I can see my bottle is too skinny, but I don't really mind about that. I kind of feel like I need to sort out this bottom area because it's not quite matching up. This is what I you know, there's some bits I feel I need to work out. If you're painting really loosely, things really need to be in the right place to work. Otherwise, it just kind of looks a little bit, doesn't quite have the impact, you know? Joan says, could you let us know in advance what colours we will need for the session? Which session do you mean, Joan? Can you tell me? Do you mean like these sessions? If you're on my email list, then you get an email and I give you the materials list. I'll just give that to everybody now. The colours that I'm using. Not the ones, I mean, when I'm doing a workshop, I send out mixing videos ahead of time with the main colours, you know, to mix. I could do that for these, yeah. Actually, I was thinking about that might be a really nice thing to add for people if you're in the school. Like I have a monthly subscription. You get access to a load of my courses and you get the reference photos for the Friday lives. I was thinking also it would be nice to put out mixing videos for people who are in the school. I'm thinking about that. Yes, Marcia, Rebecca Crowell. That's right. Thank you. That's from a while ago. I was trying to think of the landscaper I was. He uses a lot of cold wax. I really like her work. It looks kind of organic and almost like stone sometimes. I love it. Thank you. Sandal family. I still can't remember your name. I'm so sorry. But I'm really glad you enjoyed the session. Erti says, I would appreciate your thoughts on highlights, determining the values in chroma at some point. Generally speaking, for highlights, like for these highlights here, it's mostly about making sure that you save your highest highlight. I didn't this time, like the flowers actually get as light as the highlight on the bottle. But usually, I will try and save my highest value. So it's more about the values around it being lower. You know. No, Dirty Colour is a really cool, it's a really cool YouTube handle. I hope you've got a channel. I'm going to check out and see if you've got a channel. I hope you have. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I've been painting for 2 hours, getting a little bit tired. This painting wants another session on it for sure. It's going to be, this one is going to go to a finish. The paint is very thick though, in places, like really thick. So it's going to take a little while. I'm going to need to let it dry. I just feel like there's some really nice stuff happening on an abstract level in the background areas, and I can push that out. I need to resolve the bottle a little bit more just to make sure everything lines up and is in the right place. The perspective is out. I like the values and the color here and the immediacy of it, but the perspective is out. And I want to refine this flower a little bit and bring those petals out a little bit more. But I'm happy with it as a good start, you know. It's out of print, Rebecca Crowell's book. I've got a copy. No. Well, that's a shame. And I got it from Jackson's Art. You know, Jackson's, the art shop, is literally like 15, 20 minutes from my house. Michelle, you are most welcome. Andy, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for everybody for coming along, listening to me rant, and being patient enough for the amount of time it took me to get this to a point where it was starting to become a painting. It means a lot to me that you indulge me in this way, and I hope you get something useful from these sessions. I certainly do. I love connecting with you and sharing this incredible journey with you. Joanne says, how do you keep your paint so juicy? Just mix enough. Seriously, mix enough paint. Most people don't mix enough paint. Mix more than you need. Okay? That is going to be my final note for today. I'm going to leave on that note. Always mix more paint than you need. You can never have too much. Okay? Thank you very much for coming, everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.